Hey, good afternoon. My name is Jerian Karakis. I serve as the president of Equitable Foundation, and we have an awesome presentation to bring you today. A dear friend of mine, Kim Nauer, she's with us. She is our resident expert in all things how to pay for college, FAFSA. So we're going to take you through this presentation, and the way that it's set up is periodically you can fast forward through a section. You can let us continue to voice over the material, but this is really meant to complement your work and your engagement in a classroom. And for those just watching the video on our SAD resource site, we hope you enjoy the material we are presenting, and looking forward to hearing about your journey to post-secondary attainment. So with that, Kim, I'd love to just introduce you before we bring up the slides.
Hi, everyone. I am a expert in FAFSA and financial aid based in New York City at the New School, which is famous for its design school, the Parsons School of Design. I've been working in higher education policy for more than 15 years and have a lot of experience in helping all kinds of students and families get financial aid, but we're particularly interested in helping first-generation students through their journey, and we hope to be helpful to you today.
Absolutely. So how about I bring up the slides, and we're going to go through certain sections of this quickly, and others we'll spend a little more time on, but this is really the material around how to pay for college in 6 easy steps. We're going to talk about life after graduation. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my college story. It'll be brief. I grew up in Blacksburg, Virginia, didn't have a lot of conversation about what post-secondary access looked like. Just was lucky enough to have some friends that were all making plans to go to college. Their parents were helping them complete the SAT, college applications, and through osmosis, I was exposed to that. As luck would have it, I ended up at Virginia Tech. It wasn't very thoughtful or planful. That was a big state university in my backyard that a lot of people went to and thought that that would be the best option for me. But, you know, in hindsight, obviously some things we'd do differently as far as my plan of study, my habits, but really today is about how to finance and pay for that. And unfortunately took out a lot of student loans that made things difficult once I graduated, right? And just created another kind of barrier to starting to accumulate wealth like I wanted. But nonetheless, some of the things we're going to tell you today are tips and tools, and through the bad experiences maybe I've had or just different experience Kim's familiar with, we want to make this a little more seamless for you and at least get you thinking and asking the right questions. And some of the main things as we think about what happens after high school is, you know, what's a career or a job you're interested in? It's going to change. You don't have to have it all when you graduate high school, but starting to think about what you want to study, the classes you like, the things maybe that you are just abhorrently like not a fan of. That's all something to be thinking about. Where do you want to study? In-state, out-of-state? Have you done any college tours? Have you researched majors? All part of the equation, and really start to be thinking about what does it look like in 2 to 5 years? Again, that's going to evolve and change, but always having a mindset of like, where do I want to be keeps you from being rudderless. It keeps you on a path to something that will ultimately lead to you achieving everything you want to. So that's what we're here to talk about today. There are a lot of amazing educational opportunities for you. We're going to talk about some of the jobs at a very surface level, thinking about trade school. We've got a section about government money, Pell Grants, work study, both at a federal and a state level. That's important. We're going to talk about what colleges can offer, and then how do you get access to this money, and unequivocally completing the free application for federal student aid is stop. That's something we got to do, and we want to help demystify some of that stuff. So really excited about it. And Kim, as we jump into this educational opportunity and what jobs look like, we're not going to belabor these points. If you're a guest presenter in a class or in a community, you really can talk about your experiences here. What are jobs you've been exposed to? What are jobs that you're familiar with? I think just getting these students thinking about careers and jobs that lead to a lot of fulfillment, both personally, professionally, financially. That's the point of this section here. And Kim, I'd love for you to share a bit more here.
Well, just real quick in terms of my background, I went also state school educated, and I think that that's always a wonderful and very reliable path in terms of getting a great education without overpaying for it. I went to the University of Connecticut. And then after that, I went to graduate school for journalism. And that's where I chose to spend my money. So that's always a nice path to consider, is to keep your costs under control for your undergraduate experience, and then know that you may want to pursue graduate experience. That said, many students very, very successfully choose not to do a four-year school at all. They may choose to do 2 years or certificates. Any kind of post-secondary education that is college-based in some way that gives you credit is worth considering and worth thinking about in terms of what are your immediate goals in terms of your career, and then you can keep building on that your entire life. That works out really nicely. So we're going to sort of run you through all those kinds of options here today.
Thank you, Kim, and what an awesome story. As we think about the kind of college or training that you'll need, that's what you're thinking about when you start thinking about careers. Ask questions, people in your community. Obviously, you're around a lot of educators, right? Ask them, was there a career they considered before they got into education? Is there a career maybe they're considering after they're done teaching? All good questions to ask for inspiration and to get you thinking, even if it's your family members or whatever it may be, what are those types of role? We're going to try to go through this, not at a super technical level, but broad strokes. And Kim has a lot of experience here, even at the college she works at, working with students that are navigating these things. So, Kim, I'd love for you to share a brief high-level summary of each of these different roles. Kim,
Okay.
I'd love for you at a high level to take the students through some of these jobs at a very surface level, but just get them thinking about what are the things that maybe I want to do that require different post-secondary degrees, and just start to joggle some thoughts here for these students watching our presentation today.
Terrific. Yeah. So one thing that's true of all of us is that we tend to only think about jobs that we see in our immediate families or around our friends. And I wanted to give you a quick overview of the many different sectors that are out there. And with that, a sense of everything from entry-level positions all the way to the top, right? And so that's what these next 2 or 3 slides will walk you through. So one of the biggest sectors in America right now in terms of hiring is your medical and mental health sector. And it's possible to start in that sector with a credential or associate's degree. You don't necessarily need the 4-year degree at all. You can start without a degree whatsoever. So that includes things like EMTs, medical technicians, that kind of thing. And then you go to community college, you can go to a 4-year college to get a whole range of really exciting jobs, everything ranging. And these are just examples I offer in the thing. You know, I have a student who's training to be a phlebotomist right now, if you like blood. All social workers, big one is registered nurses, LPNs, each require different education, all the way up to, of course, doctors, psychiatrists, heads of hospitals. There's just a tremendous amount of opportunity in the medical sector. The next one, I sort of grouped them together, but it's a giant set of sectors, actually, is your business and trades. So this is the ultimate American sector to think about, because it can be something that you yourself starts a small business and makes money and can support yourself immediately. This is something you might even be thinking about in high school, all the way up to a lot of very, very good paying positions. And then we have the trades, which is the carpentry and construction, plumbing, building. These jobs is tremendous ability to make a lot of money particularly if you own your own business, all the way to a CEO. Your next big one that I'm sure you've read about, hear about, is the technology and consulting sectors. And so all of the IT jobs out there, and they range from IT support. Once again, don't necessarily need a college degree to start in that. You can just get a credential if you'd like, all the way to data analysts. If you want to be artsy, then you could think about like design. There's coding, computer engineering, and all kinds of other things, all the way up to this idea of the chief information officer. And every company, big company, has that. So that you see, like from the beginning to the top. Another giant industry is security and policing. And you can start immediately after high school in any kind of security guard job. There's lots of those available. While you're training, there's idea of being a police officer, a fireman, cybersecurity. Once again, you're seeing the variety here, all the way up to this idea of head of trust and safety, which is what a lot of corporations have to keep their to keep them, free from hackers. Next slide, please.
Yeah, and hey, one thing I just wanted to say, an overview of this, great terms to consider searching. If there's companies you're familiar with or that you see in your hometown, maybe type in the name of the company with one of these roles. You'd be amazed at some of the detail you can find online about these types of roles. And again, nothing you've got to figure out the day you graduate high school, but we think it's important to spend time on this because this then giving you some direction on your field of study, the college you may go to, that's so important. The goal is to finish with a degree that you can put to use that's going to help you find a great job and that you've not spent an inordinate amount of wasted money trying to figure out that pathway. So, Kim, really good information. And here's a few more roles here we wanted to share.
So the next very exciting sector you might want to consider is travel and leisure. There's many jobs in your own town, city, where you live that are focused on any kind of travel and leisure opportunities. Now, this can include stuff like hotel desks, reservations. It can include working with kids, all kinds of fun opportunities with little guys in terms of travel and leisure. Bartending and waiting, big opportunity for many people. Once again, don't necessarily require expensive degree. All the way up to other things like flight attendants, anything in the airline industry, tour guides, tourism, get to travel all over the world, seeing stuff. And then there's all kinds of really amazing and fun jobs in restaurants and at the top of the tourism industry where you really get a chance to sort of set the agenda for people that are trendy and cool, right? The next one
People like you, Kim.
yeah, I wish. And then the next one, which is near and dear to my heart, is media and arts. And so this you can start out, and this is something that a lot of young people are just sort of naturals at, is social media, making yourself known and making other kinds of social media products for a company, for yourself, promoting yourself. I know that many young people would like to be an influencer, but that requires a certain amount of ability to influence people. So I would just say it might be good to just climb the ranks and think about and learn about graphic and web design, being a journalist. Possibly on the business side, you might want to be thinking about media sales, advertising. These are all very high-paying jobs. All the way to the most artistic kind of things, which can include stuff like architecture or working in Hollywood, right? Then the next sector, also overlooked, but huge and full of very good paying jobs, is government and nonprofits. And so there's a lot of good early stage jobs in this sector. This includes counselors, coaches, people who work in the community-based organizations, very rewarding work, by the way. You also, this idea of a community organizer, you can get people together and get stuff done in your community. Then you're going up to the jobs that do require more education and they offer more pay, as teachers, principals. Your local and federal government has many jobs, and many of them require varying amounts of education. You don't necessarily need to start with a bachelor's. And then lawyers and judges, those are professional degrees, but at that type, those are something later in the career. Or we all could say, maybe you should be thinking about being the president of the United States, one of the great government sector jobs. And last is this idea of transportation and trucking. vast numbers of people work in this sector. And it's one of those jobs that you can have sort of a side gig, possibly doing that to support other work that you're doing or to support your education while you're getting it. So you could start as a hail service or delivery with absolutely no need for a college degree, but perhaps to support your college degree. And then work your way up if you enjoy the driving, which many people do. Bus driving, interstate trucking is a very well-paying position, all the way up to some mechanical positions, or be thinking about creating the whole interstate highway system. There's engineers who work in that work, or working possibly in the airlines industry and being an air traffic controller. So it just gives you a sense of the vast amount of opportunity out there, and that you can always start in a position that doesn't require a lot of education and then work your way up. And that is, so many people do that successfully.
I love it, Kim. And yeah, the logistics piece of the transportation industry, so many ways to get in, but you've got to start somewhere. And that'll just shorten that window and get you on a path. And one of the best ways is through your own research, the questions you may ask, the time you spend on the web looking at these different roles, identifying companies that you shop with, that you're fond of. You know, I love Nike, I love Apple, I like Carhartt outdoors. Go to their websites, look at their roles, look what kind of degree requirement they have. These are great ways to start thinking about these things. I think in the next slide, Kim, just maybe a top line overview of what trajectory in this field looks like. We're going to give an example. We talked about the medical field and so many avenues and great paying jobs, and obviously jobs in abundance in any city, any town, any state, right? What a great way to make a living, and obviously with a great purpose of helping people. And so Kim's going to just take you through what a trajectory looks like in perhaps a nursing field or a path there that is focused on that medicine. And this is something just to think about as you progress. Kim?
Right. It's a perfect illustration, and a very common one, of a way to start at right after high school in a field with some initial training, and then work your way up, right? So the first job, so we're going to take a look at what's possible in the nursing field these days. And you'll see in the slide that we offer these both some job titles, but also a sense of what the pay would look like. So the first thing that you can begin to work in with, perhaps beginning with 2-year credential, associate's degree, maybe even less than associate's degree, is this idea of becoming a medical technician or assistant. And that allows you to get a bunch of experience in the field, make sure you really like the field. And then on the side, you could be going to get additional education to get to the next level. But already it's a good job. And then the sort of next level up for nurses is this idea of the LPN, or licensed practical nurse. And that job requires an associate's degree. And then you are doing a lot of work in the hospitals or in medical offices, given a lot of responsibility, but you're not given like the primacy responsibility. You're not bossing people around. The next level up is registered nurse. And this is really the highest level in terms of nursing itself that you can get to. And that is a bachelor's degree and possibly some additional learning after the bachelor's. Often, if employers like you, they will help pay for all of this education. You get in the door as a medical technician and you can work your way out, possibly getting a lot of your additional education paid for by your employer. That's something to look into. And then nowadays, this is the huge thing, nurse practitioners, and there's a whole huge burgeoning field of nurses who are really have much of the responsibility of doctors. And just think about the last time that you've been into an urgent care or a hospital. Often you're going to be dealing with a nurse practitioner. Doctors are less and less common these days, and nurse practitioners get to take more time with their patients and really get to do a better job. It's a highly prestigious job, and it allows you to work your way up. So that gives you a sense of, and you would do this over a series of years. It's not something that you would accomplish all at once.
Yeah, and don't be overwhelmed by this. This is again just meant to be illustrative for you. I'm 20 years into my professional career, finished grad school in '03. First 10 years of my career in sports marketing, NASCAR, the NBA, and then made a pivot and really focused on corporate social responsibility, community engagement, corporate citizenship. And here I am leading a Fortune 500 company's private foundation. And it's the job of a lifetime. And what an amazing career. And again, it just, there's some fundamental things you've got to do, like getting your degree, but then really being intentional about your relationships and mapping. No one's going to care more about your career trajectory than you are. So always keep that in mind and be mindful of the opportunities, development, your ability to grow, all that stuff will become more clear as you think about this. So what does all this cost? Are you thinking about a trade school, a 2-year community college, a bachelor's degree, a master's, a PhD? So many options, but you got to start somewhere. And Kim, I believe you're going to take us through these next few slides.
Yep. So this is just a very, very broad brushstroke about what the cost will be. You'll be doing your own research as you go through and decide what you want to do. And the cost of education is highly, it's connected a lot towards what school you're planning on attending, what geography, where you live can be cheaper or more expensive, and what kind of degree you're seeking. So these are just really broad brush strokes, but on average, a trade school or vocational training to get you that first level of credential can be anywhere from $5,000 to $15,000, and you probably could find something less expensive or more expensive. Then there is a very popular option is a 2-year associate's degree, and that is a college degree. Local community college or your neighborhood college will offer associate's degrees, and often they can get you right into the workforce. If so, you could be thinking about jobs that really just require an associate's degree so that you can get your education and get into the workforce. The next one is sort of the classic degree that we all think of when we think of college, which is your 4-year bachelor's degree. And that's in any kind of field you want to imagine. You can get a job, pursue a degree in that. And there's all kinds of colleges, all kinds of price points. But there you see, like for the 4 years, it could be, it just depends on how expensive the college you are, ranging from local publics, which are always going to be less expensive, all the way up to high-end privates. So the cost of these things are all over the place. So it's important to shop around. Then after you've gotten your bachelor's degree, many people pursue either what they call a master's degree or a professional degree. And that allows you to sort of really be at the top of your game in whatever profession you want to be at. It's later in life a little bit because you really are dedicated at that point to your profession. You don't want to just go into seeking these kinds of credentials without knowing that this is something you really want to dedicate yourself to over the next 10, 15 years. It costs a lot of additional money, but you will be making additional monies to help you pay for that or pay off loans. And then the last thing that is kind of famous is this idea of the professional degree. That could include all the work that needs to go in if you want to become a doctor or a lawyer or get your master's in business administration. So there's many of these kinds of professional degrees, and you do those, and then you come out and find a job really at the top of your game. But once again, you can just start on the bottom and work your way up as you gain passion for the various types of careers that you might be interested in.
Thank you, Kim. So where does this money come from? I mean, someone's got to pay for it. Not all of us are going to have the benefit of a 529 plan or a parent's able to stroke a check for room and board and books. And dining and everything that comes into it. So this is a really important section and getting into the meat of why we're here. How do you pay for college?
So college may be the more affordable than you think. I mean, we've all seen the headlines of how expensive college is getting, and it's true that there's a lot of colleges out there, the privates, that really are topping 100,000 per year in terms of what they're asking. But I just want to offer like 3 points of context on that. The first is, as far as college, there's a lot of educational options to choose from. Once again, we're not talking about just the four-year schools that sort of dominate our thinking. And here's with this Gallup survey that you're looking at, I just wanted to point out with this is that Americans really feel that a whole range of degrees are helpful. And you'll see that in each case, all the green is positive. So mostly everybody thinks that all of these different opportunities can be helpful. But you see, like industry certification, that's not like going to college. That's an industry certification that's offered through a private purveyor who might work with your employer on getting you certified to get a new skill. Industry certification, Americans give that high marks. They like that. It's low cost and high value, right? And then there's this idea of a certificate. Those can be stuff you might be able to get online. There's not same level of love for that, but it is something that's valuable. The associate's degree, once again, Americans are largely positive towards the value of associate's degree. Bachelor's, everybody agrees that four-year college, it has a lot of potential to pay out over time, that four-year degree. And then finally, the graduate degree is most likely to put you in a space where you're truly making real money, but you have to just be knowledgeable about which graduate degree you might be pursuing and knowing that this is what you want to dedicate a good chunk of the rest of your life to. So all of them, it's green, green, green. And Americans really do see that education is worth the money at any level type of education. Next slide. And then, so the next thing that, in terms of this theme of it might not be as much as you think it is that colleges and places that offer educational credentials often have a sticker price, which is what the price that they're putting on the website. But if they're luring you in and trying to recruit you to get their educational, join their educational family, they'll probably give you scholarship and institutional aid that'll bring the cost down to something that is possible that you can afford it. And they know that a lot of these very high priced institutions know that the very few families can afford that. So just know this idea that when you're looking at a sticker price at a given college, it may come in less once you apply. They may give you scholarships and institutional aid to bring the cost down for you personally. And that's just a feature of our educational system, that the sticker price, but then there's this other idea of the net price, which is what you will actually pay. Next price. And then the other thing to understand is that there's a mix of aid options out there, financial aid options out there to make college and school affordable. And this is a complicated looking chart, but the thing to take a look at is the final bar is gives you a sense of how much of the aid that colleges and the government can give you really do pay for a lot of what college costs. So the orange is government grants. If you look at that final line, or all those oranges, and then the blue right above the orange is college grants. Colleges will give you scholarship monies to make it worth your while to go, right? And then the last is that this idea of the private scholarships, and that's in the light gray. So all of that, which gets you 2/3 up these bars, is what we call free money. It's money that just you won't have to pay back. And then people do take out some loans, some student loans. And then there's also this idea of federal work study where you can just work for some of your college money. So you see, though, that like when you're looking at these individual bars, that 2/3 of it is free money. And that really can reduce the cost of your college education.
Yeah, and I can't underscore this enough from my own personal experience. Do your research here. You should be very familiar with the ramifications and all these things. You can find information on it, ask the questions. That's why folks are at the college to help you. If not, they're just processing, and those bursars offices, they're not going to wait for you, right? You've got to take a time out and ask the questions, make sure you understand what you're doing. I did want to make a shameless plug. Every October through December, we offer an application period for an Equitable Excellent Scholarship. We give out 100 scholarships a year at $20,000 a period, or $5,000 a year, $20,000 in total, 100 of those. Private scholarships are a great way to offset the cost of higher education. Don't be misled or assume that private scholarships are only for those that are in accelerated classes and honors courses and dual enrollment. No, there are a lot of private scholarships out there. In fact, about $7 billion a year in private scholarships from your local mom and pop store to a big company like ours. And so highly recommend you look more into that and just see, hey, is there a scholarship looking for my type of profile? Maybe I'm first generation. Maybe I'm going to a particular school, a particular area of study. You'd be amazed at the private scholarships that are out there, and encourage you to do your homework and do some research on that. What
And
type
last
of,
thing I'll say real quick
yeah.
on those private scholarships, they look great on your resume. It's an honor to get these scholarships. So it's, if you think of it that way, like I'm just going to apply for a few awards, it makes it a little bit more fun. And then you actually really get money with it too.
We're going to talk about financial aid, government, grants, and loans. There's a difference. There's things you got to pay back and things that would be a gift to you based on family income. And so Kim's going to take you through kind of these top 4 areas of what either Pell Grant, subsidized, unsubsidized loans, and of course the Parent Plus and loan forgiveness based on the profession you go into and based on often a requirement of years served in order to receive that benefit. Kim?
So the first slide we're looking at, there's different types of money, just to make you aware of these different buckets of money available to you, right? So the first type is money that comes from the federal government, right? And so the big, most famous opportunity they have is called the Pell Grant, and it is really reserved for the low income families and to make college more affordable. It's free money to go to college when you're in the lower income bracket, right? The second group, once again, federal government we're talking about here, is this idea of student loans, and they have 2 different types. One is the subsidized loan, which once again is reserved for low income families. It's a much cheaper loan because the interest doesn't start accruing until after you graduate. It's really reserved for families who sort of are in the Pell Grant range. Then the second one is unsubsidized loans, and any student, undergraduate student in America can qualify for the unsubsidized loans. And you'll just have to know that there's just limits to that. It's not going to pay for your entire college education, but it is a very good option in that it's lower cost than the private market for sure. And the whole subsidized loan and unsubsidized loan system is built to be very flexible. So if there's a point in your life where you're like, gosh, I can't pay my loans right now, you can put your loans on hold and get back to them when you're ready to start paying them. So they're loans and they do cost money, but the student loans are a little bit more forgiving, a little bit easier to manage, and a little bit lower cost. Then a third one or fourth one that the federal government manages is called a Parent Plus loan. And that's a loan that your parents would take out based on their credit score. And it is possible to use that to pay for your entire college experience, all the way up to the cost of attendance. But we really advise being super careful on Parent Plus loans because it is easy to, maybe too easy to take out too much debt. Our advice is always stick with the subsidized and unsubsidized loans. There's a ceiling to those. You're only allowed to take out so much as a student, and they are lower cost and more forgiving. And then the last thing is this idea of loan forgiveness. And we've read a lot in the papers under the Biden administration where there was quite a bit of loan forgiveness, particularly for people who are working in the public sector. So that can come and go, but it's something to keep your eye on are there loan forgiveness programs? And so next slide is this idea of what is in your state that's available. And every state is going to be different. But there's likely to be some of this in every state. So take a look at your state, your state grant making agency, and your counselor can tell you where to take a look at that and see, first of all, what free money is available from your state. How do I apply for that? You want to get that done, and you always want to apply for the free money in your state. Many states have these grants. And the one caveat is you usually have to go to school in your state. The second one is that a lot of folks don't know about is this idea of the interstate low-cost tuition agreement. There's a lot of states that have agreements with other states that they'll give you the in-state tuition cost at their public schools, and that is huge savings. So you just know that your in-state public school is going to not cost that much. Well, maybe the next state over, it's going to be equally as inexpensive. So to learn if there's an interstate compact in your state and other surrounding states just opens up a lot more schools that may be affordable to you. And then there's this idea, most states I've seen have this, where they're trying to build up certain professions. They want more nurses, they want more teachers, they want more technologists. So they're gonna give incentives, either grants or low-cost loans, to make it easier for students to afford to go to college and go into those professions. Once again, they're gonna wanna see you go into those professions and stay in the state, but it's great if it's sort of in tandem with what your plan's on. And then once again, states also have loan forgiveness, again, with this idea of fostering certain careers that they need more of in the state. So that's something, just like do your browsing and go to your local library and ask them to show you where all those opportunities are. The next section is this idea of need-based aid, merit aid, and private scholarships. This is where a lot of the free money comes into play in the American college system. So there's financial aid from colleges and private donors. You might remember in that previous slide that a big chunk of the free money came from the colleges themselves, and the colleges are doing this for a number of reasons, and they offer a number of different types of aid. So the first is aid to students who have financial need. And so they'll try to provide scholarships and institutional aid so that the cost of college is something that the given a student can actually afford, given that their family doesn't have a lot of means, right? So that's grants for students with financial need. Then the second type of grant that colleges will consider offering is colleges to bring down the cost of the school. We call this a college discount, and it's very common at the private colleges. So they'll have their sticker price, but then they may take as much as 50 or 60% off of that sticker price that you're looking at, and then that's the cost that you would pay, because they would be offering you these institutional college scholarships to bring the cost down to you, cost down for you. You know why? Because they want you to attend their college and they really want to fill seats. So it's really genuinely considered a college discount. And the third one is, and you probably heard about this, is this idea of merit aid. And it's meant for colleges to use certain scholarships, certain grants that are very, I don't know, very kind of very important sounding usually when they say you have just been awarded this grant because you are an excellent student, because you are an athlete that we would like to have on our campus, because you are a wonderful artist, you know, because you are a wonderful musician. They're based on certain types of merit. And so they'll use those, and it's very exciting to get that kind of merit aid offers. And once again, that's free money. And the last is private scholarships. And these are both private scholarships that are based at the colleges themselves, and you'll be able to apply through your college, which makes it super easy. Or you can go out, and there's a lot of ways to hunt down private scholarships and sort of see what's available in terms of the many, many opportunities available out there.
Yeah, and again, plug for Equitable Excellence, Scholarship America, two great avenues to do a brief search on, and it'll open up a lot of doors as it relates to where to find dollars based on, again, a lot of different requirements. Ours in particular, we love first generation college students. You have to demonstrate financial need, and we're looking for students that really are demonstrating that by going to college, it's going to allow them to then give back to others behind them, whether it's in their neighborhood or at their school, really conveying the importance and how going to school, going to college, obtaining that post-secondary degree can really unlock social and economic mobility for you. So again, excited for you all to learn more about all of these options. So how do I get all this college money, Kim? Tell us.
One word, FAFSA, and it just opened very recently. It's going to be fully functioning and ready for everyone on December 1st, and they have worked really hard at making it a perfect form this year, so we're hopeful. And we'll walk you through sort of what's involved in filling out the FAFSA.
6 easy steps. So what is it, Kim?
So it's easier than you would think. So first of all, what does it stand for? The Free Application for Federal Student Aid. And it is required if you want to get any kind of federal aid, which was those Pell Grants we talked about, plus those student loans and any loan forgiveness. All of that is a federal program, as is the Parent Plus loans. But the other thing to understand about the FAFSA is for most colleges, it's also your door in to get their institutional and grant aid. They need some information about the finances of your family in order to know what kind of money you need in order to attend their college. And the majority of colleges use the FAFSA to do that. A few use, about 170 use a form called the CSS profile. And if your college asks for that, you definitely need to fill out both of them. But the FAFSA is really your gateway to federal aid plus college institutional aid. And the third type of aid that it is important is it gets you the access to the state aid, but you'll just need to fill out an additional form with your state, but they'll be relying on the FAFSA data. And so why do you need to fill it out? It is the way that you will be able to get the financial aid that you need to get to school and get to where you want to go in life. It's just a first step. And it's really important that this one single government form could be one of the most important forms that you fill out in your young life at this point.
And doesn't cost students a thing. There is no application fee. It's not like applying to a college. This is 100% free. It just requires a little bit of energy and effort from you and an adult in your life as it relates to income. And we're going to get into that a little bit later. So what do I need to do, Kim?
Well, so we have that, like I just mentioned, this year's FAFSA. So if you're in the class of 2025, you'll be filling out the FAFSA that opens on December 1st. It'll open a little earlier in beta testing, but it'll be open on December 1st for everyone. And then you'll I'll walk you through like sort of what's involved in that. So your step one, if you're interested in filling out the FAFSA, which you should, is that you just need to first, you and your parents need to get organized. What you're going to do is you're going to gather a number of identification documents and your taxes, and just, you don't need to like memorize it from this slide. There's instructions on the FAFSA website on what to gather ahead of time, how to get yourself organized. But essentially, so you know, if you're in the class of 2025, you're going to need to find, you and your family will need to find your 2023 tax forms. So a couple years ago, you're going to need your documents like your social security card if you have one, and anything that has your exact, for both you and your parents, your exact legal name. That's important to match that totally perfectly, because that's how it does this government match, which will pull down your taxes and fill in your form automatically for you. And then banking and asset documents. So you get organized. Just get all that ready. And then the next thing you're going to do before you start to really think about the form itself is to both you and your parents will need to get FSA IDs. And all this is a login. You have them likely for many of the games that you may play, subscriptions that you may have, music services that you could belong to, your Netflix account. Same idea. It's a login, but it's a very secure login, and they actually do a little bit of a background check on you to make sure that you are who you are. So, but it doesn't feel like that. All you're doing is quickly putting in, not quickly, take your time, your full legal name, your social security number, and your address. But it's just important to have all of that exactly as it is, ideally on your taxes, because that's kind of what's in the federal databases, and they're going to be matching you up, and your parents will do the same, creating an FSA ID. And your parents may already have these, their own login from either older siblings, or they may have them because they're students themselves and they're paying loans back from prior years. So it's a privilege to get an FSA ID. You have this, it means that you are part of this government system that is there to support you in your college going experience. And so once you have it for life, and it's and you'll be using those pages, your FSA ID, for years to come. The next step is really this filling out the FAFSA. And they worked a couple of years ago. They launched a new FAFSA that was designed to be pretty quick and easy to use. Last year it was its first year out, and it definitely had some technical problems, and you may have heard about them, but the consensus out there is that they've worked their way through most of the technical problems, and it should go really quickly and easily for most families. And if you are well organized and you and your parents are sitting together, you fill out your section of the FAFSA first, finish it up. Then your parents fill out their section of the FAFSA next. I have been there and helped students and families through this. It really could be as quick as 20 minutes. But once again, you got to be organized and sort of have you and your parents in the same space, or you can each do it on your own, in your own time.
Hey, Kim, and really quick, as we get to these final three steps, two things I wanted to mention. Last year, the graduating class of 2024 left over $4 billion in Pell Grant money on the table by not completing the FAFSA, just unaware, no time. There were challenges last year with the form, we realize. But when you take the $4 billion last year and the previous class of 2023, $3.5 billion, combined, the last two classes have left over $7.5 billion with the B dollars on the table. So there's money that is there for you to use. This completion of this FAFSA is such an important step, and that's why we at Equitable, our partnership with Kim, we feel like we're having a really positive impact on any student that's on the fence or unclear, unsure, that they complete this and get access to those dollars. That's what we're here to do. And so that was the first point I wanted to make. And really quick, obviously you reference parents a lot. There's a lot of special circumstances, parents not involved, guardians, parents deceased. Obviously that information, there's opportunities for students with all different circumstances. Not everyone has a two-parent household or even one parent in their life. There's ways that can be accommodated in this form, correct?
Correct. And that is actually a very good point. The form asks you a series of questions right at the beginning, honestly, which will make it easy for you to, first of all, determine if you are involving your parents, which many high school students do. It'll let you know which parents to involve. It may be both parents or one parent. But then there actually are a series of questions that would allow and encourage you to be able to fill out the form by yourself. So if parents aren't in your life, if your biological parents aren't in your life, or if you're on your own, if you're unaccompanied homeless youth, if your parents are undocumented, there's a pathway for that. The government's really thought about every type of family, and it's put together a very simple set of questions right at the beginning of the FAFSA form to put you in the right path as you're filling out the form. And all with the idea that it wants to make sure that every student in America who wants this aid and is capable of filling out the form really can access it, with their parents' help or without. And as always, when in any of these cases, if there's anything that's overwhelming or confusing to you, seek the help of a person in your life that would understand college to some degree. This can include your college counselor or your guidance counselor at school, but it can also include your local librarian, or maybe there's a community group that you belong to, or you do sports with, or a coach. Somebody can help you out with this and you could say, can you walk me through what I'm looking at here? The adults in your life are eager to help you, and certainly your parents are. So everybody's going to be sort of part of your team, and you'll get it done, and you'll be surprised at how fast it goes.
Getting through it here. 3 remaining steps in the final 6.
Right. So one thing I sort of glossed over in the last slide is that the way that the FAFSA works is that it uploads tax information automatically, which makes it a lot easier than hunting and pecking for information in your tax forms. And because it does that, it needs for the FAFSA asks that the students fill out their section first, or you can do it vice versa. And then it automatically upload any tax information you have, if any. Many students don't have tax information. And then you sort of finish your form, and it says, and you'll get a little message, you're almost there. And then there's a little form to invite your parents with an email link, and then they do their part on your form. So you're kind of doing it each separately, but you really can both do it together in one sitting. And so then if you were the first to start your FAFSA form and maybe you got it done at school, then your parents could get their part done at home. Like you don't all have to do this at one place. But just know it's chunked a little bit. And then once your parents have done their part of the form, then, or whoever the final person is to do their chunk of the form, then somebody will get the big message, congratulations. And that means that the data and the questions that you answered have been sent to the folks who run the FAFSA, and then they turn it into a nice little package of information that goes to all of the colleges that you're interested in applying to, so that those colleges have the information that they need to put together a financial aid package for you. So it's just like sort of a one-stop shop to give all of the colleges that you're interested in the information they need to give you both needs-based aid and merit aid. And so once you've submitted your form, you can you look for that congratulations, and then you look at your email and you watch for this thing called a FAFSA submission summary. It'll give you all the information that you need to know in terms of next steps there. There might be some stuff that you need to do immediately, sort of look it over carefully, plus a lot of really interesting information about the colleges themselves. They actually have a lot of data about your colleges in that FAFSA submission summary. And the last thing is you'll get sort of what you need to do. You'll get first of all, you'll get a sense of what federal aid you are immediately eligible for. So it's they can make that calculation pretty quickly. And so it's worth opening your FAFSA submission summary just to see how much of a Pell Grant may I be eligible for, if anything. How much in loans am I eligible for? How much in federal work study? That will be on your FAFSA submission summary. So it's worth opening it and taking a look. And then the last thing that is important all the way through your college process, but is to watch your email constantly, because both the FAFSA folks themselves and your colleges may have follow-up questions, and you want to answer those questions as quickly as possible, because that will make it faster that they can give you your financial aid package. So just keep your eye on your email at all times, and be logging into your portal, all your college portal applications.
So what happens next? We've got a FSA ID, we're ready. We complete the FAFSA. Obviously, different states have different deadlines. Different states have a deadline. Some states it's just there, the money's available until it runs out. What can a student from any state generally be thinking about once they hit submit on their FAFSA?
So this is sort of a quick and easy way to sort of see the timeline here. So first you're going to submit your FAFSA. And then the second thing that's going to happen is you're going to review your FAFSA submission summary. If there, and look and see if there's a little red exclamation point on the upper right hand side. If there is, there may be additional action steps that you need to take, and make sure you take those and do whatever the form suggests. Number 3, the colleges are going to receive this information. And if you did apply to 5 colleges and put them on the FAFSA, 5 colleges are going to get that information. If you applied to 20 colleges, 20 colleges are going to get that same information, right? And then they use that information to put together your financial aid packages. So obviously, your next step, and probably the most exciting step, is to wait for your college acceptance offers. And then once those acceptances come through, you should get some initial sense from the acceptance letters if you got any super exciting merit aid or college institutional aid. Often they put that as part of your acceptance letter because they know it is exciting to get that news. But the actual financial aid offer is often a more formal piece of information. And that sort of breaks down your options in terms of how much grants you're getting, how much institutional aid you're getting, how much the total cost of attendance is, and how much in loans you might need to take out if you want to attend. So it's an important piece of paper to look for. It doesn't necessarily come the exact day of your acceptance offer. Often it may be a week or 2 later. You'll have to keep logging into your portal to sort of see if it's there, and they will probably send you notification to say, check out your financial aid offer. And then once you've done that, I urge everyone to decide which colleges are the final ones that you're interested in. Are you down to 2 or 3 that you really love the most? And print out those offers, or print them all out, honestly, because the financial offer should make a difference about which colleges you might be most interested in attending, because the cost matters. So read and compare your financial aid offers from each of the schools that you're interested in, and look through them carefully, and look for tools online that can help you do a nice job of comparing the offers, because sometimes they can be confusing. And then the last that I urge is choose a college that you like and can afford. You want to make sure that you're really happy with the college that you're planning on attending, or the 2-year school, or the post-secondary opportunity. You want to be happy with that, but you also want to make sure that the money you are going to spend on that is something that you and your family can afford, and that is worth the money over time, which these credentials truly are, as long as you're not overspending on your degree.
I love it. So now's a great time if you're kind of proctoring and leading this. What questions do the students have? If you're with families, what are the questions? We've included accompanying this as a really nice flyer with a lot of resources and links and places you can go. But in this last, I guess we'll call it about an hour here, we've taken you through pretty comprehensively how to pay for college with a section on FAFSA. You may have fast forwarded through this. Really, it's choose your own adventure. But, on behalf of Equitable Foundation, myself, Jerian, and Kim, really just thank you for the time, and hope that you leave this session more informed and better equipped on what's next and how to pay for college than when you started. So, Kim, any final parting shots for our audience?
I would just say that looking at it, at this moment, it may feel like it's a lot of work, But if you just break it down and take it on little by little, it is so worth it in the end. And then also, when you look at those financial aid offers, they are a vote of confidence in you. And so it's exciting to get your college acceptance offers, and it is equally exciting to get your financial aid offers. And they're very, very important to do this work with the FAFSA to get the money that you deserve, the money that you deserve to go to school. So that's what I would say.
Kim, I think I couldn't say it any better. I really want to thank you for making the time today, and thank you to all of our audience watching. And so that concludes our presentation today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.